Chapter 1, Cracking Open the Case. In this part, discover how forensic science works, find out who makes up the forensics team and what they do, figure out how to properly collect and protect evidence at a crime scene, understand the inner workings of a criminal mind. In this chapter, defining forensic science and checking out its origins, understanding why the principle of evidence exchange is important, unveiling how forensic science is organized, revealing what services a crime lab offers. Chapter 1, Understanding the World of Forensic Science. Okay, turn on the TV any night of the week, and you'll find crime scene investigators or criminalists tracking down criminals, crime lab technicians evaluating evidence, and even forensics pathologists conducting autopsies on shows detailing cases, real or imagined. I don't think this newfound interest in all things forensic stem from some macabre fascination with death or a guilty enchantment with the criminal world. If you ask me, people simply are curious by nature and have a strong appetite for scientific knowledge. Remember, everyone's fascination with the space program not too many years ago. The cool tools and magical feats of forensic science, such as making fingerprints appear from nowhere, identifying suspects by their shoe prints, sniffing out a forger by the unique signature of a laser printer, and finding even the most obscure poisons are proving equally fascinating. In this chapter, you get your feet wet with the basic definitions and organizational elements of the field of forensic science. Most of the topics that I touch on here are explored further in the chapters that follow. Page 8. Defining forensics, the science of catching criminals. If you lived in ancient Rome, you'd head to the forum when you wanted to discuss the news of the day. The town forum was a community meeting place for merchants, politicians, scholars, and citizens that doubled as a center for public justice. Steal your neighbor's toga, and the case would be tried at the forum. The term forensic stems from the Latin word forum. The term forensic stems from the Latin word forum and applies to anything that relates to law. Forensic science, or criminalistics, is the application of scientific disciplines to the law. The same tools and principles that drive scientific research in universities and identify cures in hospitals are used by forensic scientists to reveal how a victim died and, ideally, who was responsible. In the way modern hospital laboratories employ professionals to deal with pathology, the study of diseases of the human body, toxicology, the study of drugs and poisons, and serology, the study of blood. Modern forensics laboratories employ experts in forensics pathology, forensics toxicology, and forensics serology, all of whom use the principles and testing procedures of their medical specialties to help resolve legal issues and answer questions like, when and how did the victim die? Does the suspect's blood match the blood found at the scene of the crime? Was the suspect's unusual behavior caused by drug use? Integrating science into the practice of law. Not long ago, identifying, capturing, and convicting criminals depended primarily upon eyewitnesses and confessions. The world was smaller, communities more closely knit, and the extent of travel basically only as far as you could walk. Whenever anyone witnessed a crime, he likely knew the perpetrator. Case closed. Trains, planes, and automobiles changed all that. Criminals can now rapidly travel far and wide. And with this newfound mobility, they are less and less likely to be recognized by an eyewitness. Besides, eyewitness evidence these days frequently is proven to be unreliable. For law enforcement to keep pace with these changes, other techniques for identifying criminals had to be developed. Science came to the rescue with methods that depend less on eyewitnesses to identify perpetrators, or at least link them to their victims or crime scenes. Fingerprinting, chapter 5, in parentheses. Firearms identification and gunshot residue analysis, chapter 18. Hair and fiber studies, chapter 17. Blood typing, chapter 14. DNA analysis, chapter 15, and many other scientific techniques now help solve crimes that would remain unsolved in the past. The marriage of science and law hasn't been without its setbacks. Many scientific breakthroughs are viewed with suspicion, if not downright hostility, until they become widely accepted. And before a science can ever enter the courtroom, it must be widely accepted. It should come as no surprise that before science could develop, science in general had to reach a certain level of maturity. Drawing from other sciences, the development of modern forensic science parallels general advancements in science, particularly the physical and biological sciences. Take a look at how a few milestones in science pushed forensic science several steps ahead. The invention of the microscope enabled criminalists to analyze even the smallest bits of evidence and to see details in evidence that never before were imagined. The development of photography gave criminalists a crystal clear representation of the crime scene without relying on memory or the slow process and far less detailed results of making drawings. The understanding of the physics of ballistics trajectories gave criminalists a much clearer idea of where a bullet may have came from, which in turn made crime scene reconstruction more accurate. The discovery of blood typing and DNA analysis made matching suspect to crime scene far more exact. The expansion of our knowledge in basic chemistry allowed scientists to identify chemicals and poisons, particularly arsenic, and led to the development of forensic technology or toxicology. Getting the big picture of forensic science in action. You witness a burglar sneaking away from a store late at night. You call the police, and when they arrive, you identify the thief as someone you know. The person is arrested. However, fingerprints from the store's broken window, cracked safe, and tools used to open the safe don't match those of the person you identified. Instead, they match the fingerprints of a known safe cracker. What do you think police, prosecutors, and more importantly, the jury are going to believe? After all, it was dark and raining. You were 100 feet away. You caught only a glimpse of the thief, and you just left a bar where you could have, where you had a couple of drinks with friends. The fingerprints, on the other hand, matched those of a known thief in each and every detail, meaning they came from him and only him. Which bit of evidence, the fingerprints or your eyewitness account, is more reliable? This scenario represents what forensic science does, or at least attempts to do. Each and every forensic technique that you discover in this book is designed to either identify perpetrators or connect them to the crime. Starting out small, basic forensic services, properly identifying, collecting, documenting, and storing evidence are at the heart of the forensic services offered by virtually all law enforcement agencies, from village cops to major metropolitan police departments. They need the basic services in the list that follows to be able to investigate and solve crimes and to convict the criminals who commit them. Evidence collection unit. The crime scene investigation unit collects and preserves evidence from this crime scene and transports it to the lab. regardless of whether they're individual police officers or highly trained professionals. Members of this unit expose and lift latent fingerprints. Chapter 5, collect hair and fibers. Chapter 3, and gather any other articles of evidence at the scene. Photography unit. The photography unit takes pictures of the crime scene, all evidence, and the body whenever one is present. These photos are crucial, serving as blueprints for crime scene reconstruction and an excellent format for presenting evidence in the courtroom. Turn to Chapter 3 to find out more about photographing a crime scene. Evidence storage. A secure place for storing and preserving the evidence is essential. Evidence is usually stored in a locked room with restricted access that is housed at your local police station or sheriff's department. Evidentiary materials are kept in storage for years or even decades, and the chain of custody. See Chapter 3 must remain unbroken throughout that time, or the evidence can be compromised, losing its value. Okay, that was the end of page 10.